They fired me 2 days before the biggest product launch of the decade, after 10 years of building it from scratch. No warning, no thank you. Just a cold room, a rehearsed script, and a severance check I never asked for. But maybe it started long before that. The stolen credit during meetings, the promotions given to guys who could swing a golf club, not write a single line of code, the intern I trained last summer. He's now the one presenting my systems to investors. And when I spoke up, I was too intense. Not a team player. Somehow, I became the problem for solving problems too well. My name's Jasmine. I don't wear blazers or strike power poses. I build systems that don't break. And for 10 years, I kept that company from falling apart quietly, reliably, invisibly, until they decided I was too much. Or maybe just not pretty enough for the pitch deck. This story, it'll make your blood boil with every layered injustice. You'll cheer when karma hits back, and gasp at an ending you'll never see coming. So grab a cup of tea, turn up the volume, and tell us, where are you listening from? What time is it in your corner of the world? We want to know. Just how far these stories travel. It happened again during the Q3 planning meeting. Only this time, it cut deeper. I'd spent the last month refining a deployment framework that could cut our rollout time in half. I presented it clearly, methodically at the Monday Tech Sync. Brent was 2 seats over, nodding like he got it. 2 days later, I overheard him explaining the same framework, my framework, to Ryan over coffee, like it was his idea. Ryan clapped him on the back, grinning. Now that's initiative. I didn't even flinch. Not anymore. It wasn't the first time. At Mason Tech, it was never about the best idea. It was about who could pitch it with swagger and just the right amount of cologne. Ryan loved that kind of energy. His favorite word, optics. He once told me, let Brent lead the demo walkthrough. He photographs better. Same day, he asked if I could make the back-end code look less intimidating, as if infrastructure needed makeup. People think sexism at work feels like a slap. It doesn't. It's quieter. It's in the smirks. The subtle, can you just take notes? The way my emails had to include screenshots or they'd get ignored. I once fixed a bug that saved the company 20 grand. Ryan called me a lifesaver. But when the report came out, only Brent's name appeared. Then came the investor deck. I designed the entire technical architecture, built the slides, wrote the speaker notes. On the day of the big pitch, I wasn't even in the room. Brent stood on stage, pointing at my diagrams, delivering my lines, ones I'd written at 11 p.m., waiting for takeout. That night, Ryan forwarded an email thread from the investors. Great job, they said. No mention of me. No reply when I thanked him. Just a thumbs-up emoji. I didn't cry. Not anymore. But that night, I started backing up everything. To my drive. It wasn't revenge. Not yet. It was survival. Still, something told me this pattern, it wasn't just going to repeat. It was going to escalate. I didn't know how soon or how sharp. The next morning, I found a new intern trying to access the production server with full admin credentials. The intern said Ryan told her she could poke around in the production server to get some real-world experience. I stood there frozen, watching her hover over scripts she clearly didn't understand. She couldn't even explain what SSH was. That night, I added another layer of access control. Quietly, just in case. By Friday, the office was buzzing with whispers Brent had been promoted. Officially. Interim head of engineering, the email read. But there was nothing interim about the smug look on his face. He leaned back in Ryan's glass-walled office, sipping something amber from a lowball glass. Golf scores were mentioned, so was grabbing drinks with the investors next week. No one asked what I thought. No one even told me directly. When I asked Ryan casually, carefully, what the change meant for my role, he grinned. Brent's just helping out with the executive staff. You know how much investors like a confident face. You'll still keep everything running, of course. Everything. Running. Of course. And just like that, I became the invisible engine behind Brent's shiny new title. He started forwarding me tasks with vague notes like, "Can you clean this up or just need your magic here?" When the new interns messed up, they came to me. When things broke, I fixed them. When investors had questions, Brent asked me, then repeated my answers, word for word. I once overheard him in the hallway telling a board member, "It's all about delegation, right? I've got a solid team." He never said my name, and Ryan. He only showed up to smile at the right moments, to shake hands, to raise a glass. That week, I worked 12-hour days, cleaning up Brent's broken deployment, refactoring code no one had reviewed, putting out fires no one else saw because no one else looked. At the end of the week, Ryan handed Brent 2 tickets to the Tech Forward Gala. "Bring someone who looks good in photos," he joked. Brent laughed. His eyes drifted to one of the interns. No one looked at me. I walked back to my desk. The sound of their laughter chased me down the hall. I had just started the last security protocol when the lights flickered, and then my email pinged. It was from HR. Subject line: upcoming meeting mandatory attendance. Monday, 5:00 p.m. No context, no agenda, but my gut already knew. By Monday morning, the office looked like a college orientation. 3 new interns had arrived, fresh-faced, undertrained, and all somehow assigned to my team. No one asked me. No one warned me. At the all-hands, Ryan made a half-hearted announcement calling it a bold investment in future talent. But I knew better. None of them had proper onboarding. One didn't know how to access version control. Another asked if production meant the marketing team. I wasn't their manager. Wasn't getting paid more. Wasn't even consulted. But still they showed up at my desk wide-eyed, confused, and completely lost. "Just help them where you can," Ryan said, like I was being asked to water the plants. This wasn't mentoring, this was babysitting. And babysitting people who could crash an entire system with a single mistyped command that wasn't just exhausting, it was dangerous. One of them, Haley, tried to install a plugin in our staging environment using steps from a random Reddit thread. It took me 3 hours to undo the damage. No one thanked me. Brent just gave me a thumbs up and said, "Teamwork makes the dream work." So I started eating lunch at my desk. Fewer questions that way. Like, what's an API, or can I delete this directory if it looks empty? But the worst part wasn't the extra workload, it was the performative kindness. The way Ryan would stroll past their desks, smiling, complimenting outfits. "Love that energy," he told one intern who'd just submitted a pull request without even a title. To be fair, they weren't bad people. Some even apologized once they realized how overworked I was. But they didn't know the game they'd been thrown into. And no one warned them. Certainly not Ryan. He called it immersive training. I called it reckless. The week dragged on, and the pressure kept mounting. We were 10 days out from the investor demo. I was rewriting last-minute scripts, fixing intern mistakes, and updating Brent on things he should have already known. I hadn't seen Ryan in 2 days, unless you count the whispering outside HR's office. Late Friday, I found Haley again, this time trying to access the live deployment keys. "What are you doing?" My voice came out sharper than I meant. She looked up, blinking. Ryan said I could explore, and that's when it clicked. Ryan wasn't just easing me out. He was training my replacement. By the following Tuesday, I was running on caffeine and instinct. The demo infrastructure was almost ready, stitched together by long nights, and whispered one more thing: Slack messages. I had the core architecture flowing cleanly. Secure, scalable, stable. But apparently, that wasn't enough. Ryan called me in for a quick check-in, his first direct meeting in weeks. He didn't sit, didn't look at my laptop. So he said, arms crossed, "Any way we can make the code prettier." I blinked. Prettier. You know, he gestured vaguely, less intimidating. Maybe fewer scary logs, more readable function names. Brent says it feels too technical to demo. The back-end system he was talking about. It handled live transactional data, encrypted messaging, and dynamic scaling. But sure, let's slap on a filter and call it Instagram. I wanted to laugh. All I managed was a tight nod. I'll clean up the UI logs, I said, even though that wasn't the issue. It wasn't about the code, it was about perception, about replacing deep competence with surface gloss. Brent didn't understand the architecture. He didn't have to. He looked the part. And in Ryan's world, that was currency. That same day, Brent asked if I could draft a couple of metaphors for explaining the tech. Something catchy, he said. I gave him a simplified flowchart. He looked at it confused. Cool, but like, could you make it more like TikTok for data? That night I stayed until nearly midnight, refining our fallback layers, tightening redundancy protocols. While Brent prepped for his demo appearance and the interns took selfies in the break room, I was rewriting authentication routines. At 11:43 p.m., I ran a silent test through the failsafes. It passed. Then, I opened a file I hadn't touched in a long time. A personal script, tucked deep in our infrastructure. I wrote it during a long weekend 2 years ago, back when I still believed being prepared was better than being bitter. It was simple, elegant, a tether line. If anyone tried to revoke my access and assign my systems to a new administrator without following protocol, it would lock them out. Completely. Not out of malice. Out of necessity. Because pretty code doesn't keep a company afloat. People like me do. And the next morning, HR sent me another email. One-line reminder, 5 p.m. meeting today. Conference room B. I didn't reply to the meeting invite. Didn't have to. My gut had already RSVP'd with dread. The whole day felt off. HR's office door stayed shut. People looked away when I passed. Conversations dropped mid-sentence like someone hit pause. I worked like usual, maybe even harder. Finished Brent's broken deployment checklist, reviewed the intern's messy pull requests, updated the final security layer for the investor demo. I even made the documentation idiot-proof. Just in case they tried to run things, without me. At 4:50 p.m., I saved my files, closed my laptop, and walked to conference room B. Ryan was already there, seated beside the HR rep Denise, I think. She looked like she'd rather be anywhere else. Ryan didn't offer a chair, didn't look up. He just started reading. From a script. Due to departmental restructuring and long-term strategy realignment, your position is being terminated. Effective immediately. I stood still. Didn't blink. 10 years and I got a paragraph and a printout. That was it. Denise slid a folder across the table. Severance terms. NDA. The usual. I didn't touch it. Ryan finally looked at me. His voice softened. We trust you'll exit professionally. You've always been a steady presence. Steady presence, like office furniture. I nodded once. Of course. Then gently I placed my company laptop on the table. Everything's in there. The demo's ready. Backups too. He exhaled, relieved. Thanks. That's appreciated. I smiled. Just enough. I hope the investors enjoy the presentation. Denise stood, awkwardly. We'll walk you out now as protocol. The hallway was silent. No goodbyes, just the soft click of my shoes on the tile and the low hum of fluorescent lights. I stepped into the elevator. The doors slid shut. I watched the numbers count down. 10 minutes. That's how long it would take for my login to be revoked and the system to detect the device handover. That's when the code would trigger. Not to crash the demo. To lock the door. And I was the only one with the key. I didn't look back. I walked into the evening air calm, weightless. But Ryan's world, it was about to hit a wall he couldn't smile through. And the first crack would come in exactly 9 minutes. Outside the building, the evening air felt too quiet. Not peaceful, just hollow. Like something big had ended and no one noticed. I walked a few blocks. My hands were still steady. But my stomach was twisting. I wasn't angry. Not yet. I was suspended. 10 years and they let me go with less ceremony than a birthday sheet cake. I found a tiny cafe near the office, ordered a black coffee, flipped my phone screen face down. I didn't need to see the fallout. Not yet. But right on cue, the alerts started rolling in. 5:13 p.m., system alert integrity check failed. 5:14 p.m., credential conflict detected. Admin access revoked, no protocol override. 5:15 p.m., live demo server locked. The trigger worked, exactly as designed. I hadn't sabotaged anything, didn't touch a single line of live code. But without the proper protocol, the system locks everyone out. And the override didn't live on any server. It lived in my head. By 5:30, my phone buzzed again. Owen, the one junior engineer who still respected me. Hey, something's wrong with the back end. Brent's logins are failing. We can't access the scripts. Did you make any updates before you left? I typed back, calm as ever. No updates. You might want to ask Ryan. By now they were scrambling. Brent probably sweating through his demo shirt. Ryan pacing. Shouting at IT, swearing the system worked just hours ago, which it did, when I still had access. I imagined them clicking through layers they didn't understand, watching error messages bloom like weeds. The house was still standing, but they no longer had the keys to open the front door. And that was the point. It wasn't destruction. It was precision. Ryan wanted me gone quietly. He didn't expect I'd ever draw a line, but some exits echo louder than any scream. 5:47 p.m. My phone vibrated again. This time it was Ryan. What the hell is going on? Call me, now. I didn't respond, because by morning the investors would be asking the same question. And Ryan, he wouldn't have any answers. By sunrise, Mason Tech was in a state of silent chaos. The emails still worked. Calendar invites were still going out. But the heartbeat of the company, the demo infrastructure flatlined. The interface loaded. Sure. But any attempt to interact with the system led to one of three things: access denied, credential mismatch, or a spinning wheel of technical impotence. From my window seat at the cafe, I watched the world move on like nothing had changed. But 5 stories up. I could feel the panic climbing. I took a slow sip of coffee, just as my phone buzzed again. This time it was Owen. It's locked down. The dashboard opens, but every function crashes when clicked. Brent tried resetting permissions, nothing worked. Ryan's losing it. I smiled, faintly. Not because it was satisfying. Okay. Maybe a little. But mostly because, for once, the truth was louder than Ryan's charm. What they didn't understand was simple. The code wasn't broken. It was behaving exactly as designed. Silent, secure, precise. A glitch hadn't locked them out. Their ignorance had. Ryan always called back-end logic the plumbing. Necessary, but unglamorous. He wanted tech that dazzled, looked impressive in slides, and he wanted Brent to be the genius on stage. But when the system refused to move without its architect, the illusion cracked. I didn't need to explain anything, didn't need to gloat. The system spoke for me. 10:22 a.m. Ryan tried again. I know you're upset, but we can fix this. I'm willing to talk titles. Come back, let's work something out. He wasn't apologizing. He was bargaining. Because Brent couldn't fix what he never understood. Because pretty slides don't make systems run. Because silent systems don't lie. By 11:00, one investor had already walked out. Another threatened to pull funding by noon. The third asked pointedly, "Why is the person who built this not here today?" I didn't reply. Instead, I opened a folder I hadn't touched in years, labeled Someday. Inside notes, a prototype, a cleaner vision. Because if I were going to fix anything, it wouldn't be Mason Tech. It would be mine. By Friday, the tech blogs had picked up the story. Mason Tech demo implodes, one headline read, "Sources say internal mismanagement crippled investor presentation." I didn't need to send out a press release. The silence from their side was loud enough. Then came a message. From Claire, a product lead I'd met years ago at a small dev conference. She was now co-founder of a growing platform called Finchwave. I heard what happened, she wrote. And I've been following your work for a long time. If you're building something new, I'd love to talk. For the first time in months, I felt awake. I called Owen. He didn't hesitate. I'm in. Just tell me where to start. That weekend, we worked out of his apartment. The floor scattered with takeout boxes, laptops, and hand-sketched UI diagrams. We pulled out old notes I'd archived years ago, concepts for a cleaner, human-centered collaboration platform. No bloated dashboards, no investor bait, just tools that respected the people using them. We called it Rootline, because everything starts somewhere and ours began with the truth. We built fast, not sloppy, just focused. Owen handled user design, clean, intuitive interfaces. I rewrote the architecture from scratch. Secure, elegant, no frills, no fluff, just code that did what it said it would. Claire offered seed funding after our very first pitch. She brought in 2 former Mason investors, the same ones who walked out mid-demo that day. When we finished, one of them leaned back and said, "This is what we thought we were buying the first time." Claire smiled. "Now you're getting it, just without the ego." We launched quietly. No fanfare. But within 2 weeks, a nonprofit in Oregon used it to coordinate a community drive. A small publishing team in Minnesota used it to send their first fully encrypted newsletter. Each time a message would come in, "We've been waiting for something like this." And I'd sit back watching the clean UI run like a calm heartbeat, knowing no one could ever take this away. Mason Tech hadn't just lost me, they'd lost their foundation. But me, I had finally found mine, and the person who once stood invisible in someone else's empire, she was now building her own. 3 months after launch, Rootline wasn't massive, but it was steady, clean, real. We had just passed our 100th organization sign-up when Claire forwarded me an article. The headline read, "Mason Tech faces leadership crisis as another senior engineer resigns." The story all too familiar. But this time it wasn't a woman. It was a man, walking away after citing intellectual theft and CEO misconduct. I stared at the screen for a long time. It wasn't satisfaction I felt. It was clarity. It had never been me. Not my tone, not my confidence, not my inability to adapt. It had been the system, all along. A system built on charm over competence, image over integrity. One that quietly crushed anyone who didn't fit its mold until the cracks became too loud to ignore. I closed the tab. Owen glanced over from the other side of the room. "You okay?" I nodded. "Yeah, I am, because for the first time I wasn't clinging to a seat at someone else's table. I was building my own. These days I still code late into the night. Still review lines twice, sometimes 3 times. But it's different now. No one stands behind me waiting to take credit. No one's telling me to make it look pretty for the pitch deck. Just people who build because they care. People who see me really see me for what I create, not how I present it. And when new users reach out, not just for technical help, but to say things like, "I finally feel safe using a platform again," that's when I know we did something right. Rootline became more than software. It became proof. That quiet builders matter. That truth can win against the Polish. That justice sometimes doesn't look like revenge. It looks like freedom. And me, I still keep my old Mason Tech badge. Not as a scar. As a reminder that even in places that tried to erase me, I left a mark too deep to be overwritten. So if you've ever been overlooked, underestimated, or pushed out of something you built, remember this. You don't need to fight for space in broken systems. You can build better ones, subscribe to catch more inspiring stories, or